quickly check. It is. Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Mohammad, and this is my podcast. This is a new type of content. My podcast really has four categories right now. Um, I use it to share anecdotes, answer questions, I have sessions where I talk to students or industry professionals, and that segment is called "Chatting with Chaudhry" or "Chats with Chaudhry." I call it different things, but the idea is that it's any segment or any podcast where I basically have a guest with me, and then the fourth one is reactions. And the idea is that it's just going to be me reacting as someone who's worked in the industry for a while and kind of knows how managers think or how companies spin narratives or you know, present things or frame things in a way where I know what's really happening or I know what they're trying to do, just based on the headlines or based on the news. So that's what today will be. It's just me kind of reacting to two posts in particular that I saw on Reddit, and I'll just give my thoughts on them. So well, I have it in split screen, so you can see right here. This is one post. Someone said in the title, like true narcissists, they are trying to flip the script, and they're showing a newspaper article, and the news article says, "Quiet hiring is the opposite of quiet quitting, and workers are furious about it." And then under it has a photo, and under the photo it says, "Quiet hiring involves rewarding workers who have gone above and beyond their job description." Okay. And then even further it says, "First came quiet quitting, then came quiet firing. Now the latest silent workplace trend is quiet hiring." I don't like how everything has to have a cool name. For example, I have a friend named Mikey, and he hates how everything has to have gate next to it. And it was inspired by Watergate. He said Watergate's name was actually Watergate, right? But he's like, now, like with the iPhones, when the iPhones were bending easily, I think it was the iPhone 6. The iPhone 6 would bend kind of easily in your pocket if you put it in your back pocket and like sat down. The phone's frame would like bend a little bit. It was known as Bendgate. Um, and there's other examples I'm sure that haven't come to mind. But he's like, I don't like when people are just adding gate to the end of some scandal, and then they're trying to just peddle it. The naming schema is just to attract attention. So when I look at this and they say quiet hiring, I'm just like, why does everything have to be quiet? Like, why does putting, if it starts with quiet and ends in an ing, they will find a way to use it. Um, and this isn't. I don't like that they say the latest silent workplace trend is quiet hiring, um, because I think this is just what getting promoted. Rewarding employees who have gone above and beyond their job description. Why is this something that is new? I think this is something companies have promised that they've been doing all along. If someone works hard in the workplace, they should get rewarded for it. They should get promoted. They should get raises. They should get some sort of monetary award. And I want to look at what sort of legal definition have they given to each of these terms. So I'm going to look them up because I know them intrinsically. I know them internally. I don't know what's the official explanation, and I'm sure someone has defined it by now. So quitting, quiet hiring, quiet hiring. All right, let's see what pops up. I guess allow the cookies. I don't know. Okay. What is quiet firing? Simply put, a quiet firing occurs when an employee purposely behaves poorly to get someone to quit. Going years without a raise or promotion, moving duties to jobs requiring less experience. It resembles someone who wishes to part ways with the individual but lacks the nerve to do so. Okay. Just sounds like workplace ghosting, I guess. Quiet hiring. Unwilling to go there. Unwilling to go the extra mile. Okay, so I really quickly went through all the definitions, and so it looks like quiet quitting is what they call it when employees are doing the bare minimum. I guess they're just doing their job and they're not volunteering to work extra hours or take on extra responsibilities outside of the scope of their job description. So that's quiet quitting. Quiet firing is, I mean, we just call it a toxic workplace, or we just call it, structured dismissal or some other term. It's not something new, but they're trying to pretend that it is. It's when a workplace just becomes a little bit hostile. They stop assigning you work, stop giving you things to do, or maybe take your existing projects and give it to someone else, which is bad because the next time you have a quarterly review, a performance evaluation, if you don't have something to talk about, you can't just say, "Oh, no one's assigned me work." Like that's so it might sound nice that they're taking your work and giving it to other people, but in reality, I mean, you can't ask for a raise. You're gonna have a hard time asking for time off because even if you're coming to work and doing nothing, if you try to ask for PTO, your boss is gonna be like, "I mean, what do you even do?" Right? So that's just gonna be a nice experience. So you can't ask for a raise. It's hard to ask for time off. It's hard to ask for a promotion even because if they ask, "Hey, what have you been doing recently?" You can't say, "Oh, nothing. I worked hard for 4 or 5 years, and then the last year I haven't done anything because of workplace drama." Any team within your company is going to be raising eyebrows and go like, "What's going on?" So, so quiet quitting is doing the bare minimum, I guess, or doing your job. I shouldn't say bare minimum, doing your job. Quiet firing is just when your workplace turns on you, and then quiet hiring is when the workplace promotes good behavior or going above and beyond. None of these None of these are new terms, right? First of all, quiet quitting, doing your job is the most appropriate thing you can do. You should not be working extra. You should not go above and beyond. It's really not necessary and it's not helpful. If anything, it hurts you in the long term. Because if you get too good at your job, then you're typecast. You can only do that job. You'll be known for being good at that job, and they'll never consider you for promotion because they'll think, you know what, this person is so good at X, Y, and Z, but can they transfer those skills to the manager of ABC, right? I've seen people who they they do a lot of work, they do extra hours, they pitch in, they coach, they try to do a lot, and they do it for years and years, and then over time, first of all, their job description will evolve to incorporate all these new responsibilities. So if you start doing extra things at work and you do it long term, guess what? When you stop doing those extra responsibilities, they're not going to think that, oh, you're going back to normal. They're going to think, hey, how come you stop doing the things that are part of your job? I've seen this. I have seen someone's job description that was changed to include all the extra things they were doing. And what does that mean? What does that mean? If it becomes part of your job, it's no longer extra. If you're doing extra things and then they become part of your job, guess what? If you try to stop doing them, it looks like you're deficient and you can be terminated. You can be put on a performance plan. So going above and beyond it's bad for you. I encourage people doing it in the short term. For example, do extra things for a quarter or half a year, maybe 3/4 of a year, or maybe a year at max. Because after a year, if you're doing extra things and you're not getting compensated, or there's no bonuses, incentives, awards, anything like that, you should just do the extra work so you have something intelligent to talk about at job interviews where you're looking at promotions or looking at external opportunities. So this idea of quiet hiring is for people who go above and beyond. I don't like that narrative. This is a way for companies to incentivize people to work hard, to do more for less, right? Because you're still going to get the same money, still going to get the same benefits, and benefits aren't standard for some companies. When you get into management, there's a lot of perks and incentives and awards that exist that you're not going to get as an individual contributor. If your bonus is 15%, when you become a manager, it jumps up to 20. Like the health insurance or 401k match might still be the same, and that's what they always say. Like, oh, we have the same health insurance as you guys, and the same 401k, but it's like, yeah, but your long-term incentives or your stock options, I mean, those are going to be different. So I think quiet quitting is very appropriate. I think people should just do their job, and I don't like that we are villainized um, for thinking that that's okay. I don't like that companies are using their power, using their influence to spin some sort of tale where if you're just doing your job, you're basically quitting. I don't like that. I don't like quiet firing because it's just a fancy name for something companies have always done. If companies didn't want an employee, they would find a way to get rid of that employee. They would find a way to cultivate and foster an environment where that employee would not thrive, where that employee did not want to stay. But why are we acting like this is a new phenomenon? It's not. But they're acting like it's new so that they don't have to accept that this is a worse problem, I think, than quiet quitting, right? Quiet firing, I think, is probably the worst trend or whatnot that they're mentioning here. And then quiet hiring is even worse because they've given a fancy name. They've given some nice wrapping paper to a very toxic workplace behavior. It gets so loud whenever I'm getting very passionate. Um, but yeah, I don't like quiet hiring. I don't like it. It's just a fancy term for um, gaslighting. Really, they're trying to get people to work hard, and they're trying to say, "Oh, this is a new thing called quiet hiring." No, companies have historically underappreciated and undervalued their employees, and it looks like that this is just some sort of damage control. Companies are just trying to rebrand themselves or something by introducing new terminologies, but when I look at this, quiet hiring and workers are furious. Workers are furious. Honestly, I think they're just furious whenever they leave a company that's very toxic, and then they find out that the company is, giving more incentives, giving more pay and whatnot. But that often happens when it's too late, right? Companies start giving raises to employees when too many of them have left, and now the employees who have stayed behind have become more valuable, right? So I wouldn't say furious, but this is something that's happening. Companies are losing employees. There's a high attrition rate. And what is the response? The response is once they're basically down to a skeleton crew, then they start getting nervous. Then they start saying, hey, maybe pizza parties aren't helping. Maybe we need to start giving people like $1 more an hour, right? I mean, this is Manhattan, right? $1 more an hour at 60 hours a week. That's $60 a week. At 50 weeks a year, that's 60 times 50. That's $3,000 extra. That's not going to change anyone's life. But these are real conversations that are taking place. Companies think that pizzas are enough. Some companies are giving people a PTO for their birthday, and they think that that's like a big deal. Like, you get to take a day off for your birthday. What? This is just such a slow, bloated response where everyone is so traditional. Companies are trying to follow old practices that worked like 50, 60 years ago. Um, I mean, there was a time where like getting off for your birthday probably would have meant the world to you. Right? It would have shown you a lot of appreciation. But we're also talking about times when salaries were in line with market rate, where people could afford to rent nice places, they could afford to buy nice homes, they could afford to have a car, they could afford for their spouse to take off, they could afford like going out to the movies, getting gas for the car that they own. But that's not happening anymore. So unfortunately, as cost of living has gone up and people need more and more things to survive, their expectations are obviously going to inflate with that. So I think quiet quitting is a great phenomenon. I heavily endorse it. I think people should do their job. And if a workplace looks at you as though you're quitting, that's on them. If a workplace looks at you that you're lazy or something, again, that's on them. You should just do your job. Look at your job description. Whatever job you apply to, save a copy of that job description as a PDF, reference it later, and sometimes I'll try to change it. I have seen it happen. I've seen it with these eyes. I've seen companies where I have someone I'm mentoring. They tell me, hey, I have a problem where I was trying to negotiate, a pay bump, and this is my justification paperwork. And they said, HR give me a copy of my job description, and there's a lot of stuff on here, a lot of bullet points that were not here when I applied. And we've had to go on like Indeed, we've had to go on even Google or Wayback Machine to find cached copies of a job on certain job boards to see, when you applied a year ago or 2 years ago to this company, do we have a copy of that job description? Because the one they're giving you is false. Um, and it's hard. It's very hard to find these old records. So you definitely want to get copies of your job description when you apply to a job and you get the job. Keep a copy of it as a PDF, email it to yourself, because years later you have no idea if they're just going to add stuff to it and say you want a raise. If anything, you should be getting a pay cut because you're not doing everything you're supposed to be doing. You can tell them, no, this is nonsense. Nobody has spoken to me about this. Nobody has told me my position was regraded or reevaluated or anything like that. So I think quiet quitting is good. I think people should just do their job. I think quiet firing is just a toxic workplace. I don't know why it has a special term, and it's something people have been doing for a long time. And same goes for quiet hiring. Quiet hiring is something companies have given a new name to, but again, it's companies companies will appreciate an employee, but it's usually when it's too late, right? If a company made you a counter offer when you gave in your 2 weeks notice, that was in their eyes that was quiet hiring. But in your eyes, that's just them showing you they appreciate you when it's too late. So if workers are furious about it, I would say they're not furious that companies are rewarding long term, as people who stay long term with the company. I don't think that's what it is at all. I think workers are furious that this is something that has happened too late, which is they're not getting the appreciation they need. They then leave the company, and then after they leave the company, it's like, you know what, maybe we can find a way to compromise. So I look at this article and I just see a lot of nonsense, and I don't like the way the workers are getting called out when it's really there's so much fault with the companies that are causing all this heartache. Let me see. This Reddit post was removed. The photo's still here. I guess there might have been some text that came with it. I don't know. The Great Resignation is now the Great Regret. 80% of job hoppers wish they hadn't quit their old roles, with Gen Z the most regretful. Um, so, hold on. This is actually the Great Resignation. I do not know how to type. Interesting. So there's an anti-work or anti-work. I don't know how you pronounce the word anti. Everyone pronounces it differently, but there's the anti-work subreddit on reddit.com is extremely popular. But um, I actually know someone who mentioned the Great Resignation being its own subreddit, so I thought that was interesting. I just pulled it up to get a look because I find this term interesting, the Great Resignation. It sounds like a movement. The Great Resignation is now the Great Regret. 80% of job hoppers wish they hadn't quit their old roles. Okay, let me dissect this. Again, we have fancy names that I don't like. We can just call it the Great Migration. I think that's a better term. Um, but no, seriously, the Great Regret. I don't like this. I don't like Yahoo Finance. I don't like a lot of the stuff they report. For some reason, it always just seems very biased. It never really seems objective. I don't know where they got this data from. I would love to look at their sources and see where they got 80%. But I can say that the Great Resignation is just a derogatory term that companies use to talk about an entire generation. They like to talk about Gen X, I don't know if there is a Gen Y, Gen Z. That's just what the baby boomers and those adjacent generations call people who are uh, quitting their jobs after getting the experience they need, and quitting their jobs when they can see that their salary isn't going up, the work-life balance isn't there, they're not getting appreciated at work, they're not getting the promotions that they're working towards. They're getting advanced degrees and certifications, and there's no recognition that goes along with that. There's no appreciation for the value that they're bringing to the companies, to the table. So I don't like this term, and I don't like this article because it makes it sound like people are regretting leaving their jobs. I don't think that's true at all, and I would love to see their research, because people don't leave jobs for the sake of leaving jobs. People don't job hop or bounce around um, just because they don't want to put down roots. If anything, I would say this: Gen Z people probably are regretful that they're leaving their jobs in mass. A lot of them are having to job hop. A lot of them are, some of them are just not even working in the same industry or field, just because they've gotten very desensitized, and they've gotten demoralized. I know a lot of people who are leaving education to go into project management. They're leaving social work to go into software development. They're leaving nonprofit work to go into infrastructure jobs, or work in finance. Like everyone is going somewhere else. But the Great Resignation it just comes down to companies did not appreciate employees. They did not show them that they did not treat them like people. They did not give them the things they need, which is you need money for shelter, you need money for food, you need money to take care of your family, and those are the things you need, right? You need your family, you need shelter, and you need food. Like, what can you do, right? One pizza party a year isn't going to help you. Companies were always giving these personal finance classes. Anytime an employee asks for a raise, you can guarantee the boss is going to send them some sort of brochure or news article about how to manage your finances, how to skip your Starbucks and avocado toast, and retire as a millionaire with a real estate empire. This is just nonsense. This is just a headache, and this is just depressing. When I see these terms, because it's gaslighting, right? That's what they're doing. They're gaslighting you. They're trying to make it sound like anyone who's thinking about leaving their job right now, if they were to see this article, they would think twice. So that's why companies are extremely motivated to spread these news articles. That's why they're extremely motivated to spin these, these tales where basically they're the victim. I mean, they're trying to. If I looked at this, right, the company is trying to say that people are regretful. What does that mean? Regretful is when what you feel when you've made a mistake. So they're trying to tell everyone who reads this, don't leave your job. It's a mistake. See, look at everyone else who feels regret. Don't be one of these statistics. So it's absolutely gaslighting. It's just emotional manipulation. It's preying on people's insecurities. If someone was on the fence, this would talk them off the fence. People would be like, you know what? I don't want to be one of the 80%. 80% is a majority. That's a lot. If someone told you you have an 80% chance of regretting leaving your job if you leave, you'd be like, yeah, I'm not really interested in leaving my job anymore. Right? So it's all propaganda. It's just absolute nonsense. And I hate it. I hate it because I know people, suffer from low self-esteem. I know people are suffering from anxieties and depressions. A large part of the population just they they feel insecure, especially the young people who are graduating college. Not everyone has a sense of independence, of self-worth. They don't feel secure in themselves. And these predatory news articles that gaslight them or put the onus on them or put the blame, it infuriates me. It frustrates me. I wear a smile on my face and I'm acting very professionally right now. But when I see these news articles, I get just a little bit angry because I personally know people and I professionally know people who, if they read this, they would take it, they would internalize it. They would feel like, maybe job hopping is hurting my career. Maybe I'm not appreciating my employer. My employer took a chance on me. He took a chance on me, and now I'm part of this great resignation problem, this trend. Like, am I just following the trend? Am I actually unhappy here? Maybe I can make it work. Maybe I should work more to show my boss how much I appreciate him, or maybe I should help out other people when I have downtime, just so I'm not wasting time and I'm showing the company how much I appreciate them by filling in all my free downtime with more work like this. I see these news articles and I know people who are vulnerable who would fall for these articles, who would look at these articles and think, I'm a part of a problem, not really a part of a solution. I think job hopping is good because companies need to learn that they need better incentives. They need to be more competitive when it comes to their recruitment practices, and they need to do something when it comes to retention. Retention is a huge problem with companies. Companies have more budgets and more resources for hiring employees and building these new pipelines for talent acquisition. They have more resources there than they have in retention, right? And retention is usually, oh, you have an employee who's thinking about leaving? Tell him not to. Send him a brochure on fiscal posture or something. If he wants a raise, tell him how to manage his finances. Oh, he feels burnt out. Okay, send him something on work-life balance and get him the employee assistance program phone number and tell him to talk to someone. Right? Companies are not helping their employees. They're not investing in them as assets. They see them as liabilities and they treat them like liabilities. And then they're just spitting out these nonsense news articles where you are going to feel bad as the worker when an entire company is the one who will let you down, right? If you have one person who is job hopping and a company, right, feels like they're at a loss or they're hurt, then they've put you in a bad situation because they set themselves up for failure. So if you think, oh my God, if I leave my company, like my boss is going to be upset or my boss is going to be inconvenienced. No. We're talking about a whole company over here. Okay, no company, no department, no team, no business unit, no product, no project, nothing should run without redundancies, like triple redundancies, right? You should never be so critical to a company that your absence will hurt them in any way. And if it does, you should have a compensation or work-life balance or benefits that makes sense for the sort of role that you have. So that's just my reaction and my 2 cents having read these articles. Let me close this tab because it's annoying to me to have it open now. Oh, my face got bigger. So that's just a short reaction video. Hopefully this got recorded properly. I'm still having times where if I don't plug in everything, maybe I won't have any sound, or sometimes halfway through my laptop loses power, which is annoying because I forgot to plug it in. But I will try to provide more of these reactions. If you have any interesting articles or you want my 2 cents on something, send it my way. Um, and yeah, I'll do my best as someone who's worked with companies at the high level, and I'm part of these meetings when companies are trying to spin stories. I've been in the room with them. I'm not a part of that machine necessarily, the gossip mill, the propaganda. I'm not a part of that machine, but I know people who are, and I've been in the room when these conversations are being had, so I know the rationale, I know the justifications, I know the causes, I know the right, like I know exactly how they're thinking because I've been there when companies are trying to do this. So with that said, I will let you all go now, and hopefully I'll spin out more meaningful content that actually adds value or shares unique perspectives for all of you.